originally in English. Simplified. The principle of non-locality is understood by just about every interstellar species or culture, but mostly applied to stellar navigation. The practical applications of stellar navigation prove to all the ones using it that it's an empirically observable fact, and not a useless mathematical or theoretical model as in physics. The practical application of the principle of non-locality is mostly applied to navigating starships around the galaxy and elsewhere if possible. But it brings about a series of deep philosophical implications that broaden our concepts and understanding of existence and of consciousness as a whole, expanding spirituality. Time is an illusion, based only on the perception and the consciousness of an individual. Time as an inseparable to consciousness awareness, one not being able to exist without the other, and in a state of relativity to the subject that is observing. Time is not something independent of a conscious observer. It is the conscious observer itself. The principle basically states that as time is an illusion, so is locality. That is, the ideas of here versus there is yet another idea based on perception of a consciousness observer, stating that distance is only a complete mental construct based on a relative point of observation that in itself is based on the ideas the observer is holding in consciousness. Basically, the principle of non-locality would state that there is no time and no space, only ideas. Being that everything there is and ever was and will ever be is only the product of the manifestation of the observer's mind and consciousness awareness in an individual and collective manner. No time, no space, no distance. Using human physics terms, this would be comparable with a singularity. This is a point that is infinitely small and that contains infinite mass. Although stating small would mean relative to what? So even a singularity would not be able to explain the principle of no locality. It is everything in a non-existent point, contained in an etheric field outside material world in all ways and manners, variants and interpretations. Source, ether. Going back to the empirically observable parts of the principle of non-locality, a starship will not use propulsion to travel long interstellar distances that even at speed would take thousands of years to traverse. What it does is change the frequency modulation of all the molecules of the ship and everything that is in it, from the place of departure to the place of arrival, as explained in detail in stellar navigation. So the starship is not using propulsion. The starship is not moving. It's jumping from one frequency of existence to another. But what exactly is this frequency modulation I am talking about? I am referring to the exact oscillations and energetic relationships between the molecular structure of a starship and contents and the environment around it. That is, the harmonics of a frequency that form the tangible hard matter are in perfect accordance with the arrival of said starship as to accept it into its mathematical energetic reality field, leaving behind its departure's mathematical energetic matrix as no longer compatible with it. This allows the observer to empirically notice that traveling at speed is not only not necessary, but also simply inefficient for long distances. Letting the observer notice that there are no distances, that space and time are an illusion of mind, and that the universe and everything that exists in the so-called material world is based on an illusion, on ideas held by a consciousness. Observing this starship jumping as opposed to starship traveling with propulsion opens up philosophical ideas, concepts, and questions. Noticing that indeed everything that exists is based on the perception of the observer. Leaning thought towards noticing that there is no material world. No material world means that everything that exists is in or contained in an idea, in consciousness. Ultimately meaning that the universe in all its extent is not made up of matter and energy. It's made up of ideas, perception, consciousness. It's made up of mind. Thank you. Few questions. Did the ET races come up with this mode of traveling first, and then it rendered itself to the spiritual implications? Or was it the reverse? First, someone got illuminated that there are no distances and developed a technology based on it? This would be a question similar to the age-old what was first, the chicken or the egg? It was the egg, by the way, as seen from a geneticist's point of view. In my personal opinion, it had to be that the idea was first, the spiritual concept, and then the mathematical model that predicted the practical applications of frequency modulation to exploit the principle of non-locality to further the efficiency of space travel. Noting that for most stellar races and cultures, science and mathematics are not separated from spirituality and consciousness. So basically, they had to come together at once, at the same time. But the idea or philosophical concept had to be first anyway, because everything that ever was, is, and ever will be, was once an idea first. Okay. Is this non-locality principle applied by you and other races elsewhere than in starship traveling? Where else could it be applied technologically in a daily life? Only as a practical application as used in portal technology, which is nothing other than the same starship technology, but reversed. The machine that modulates the portal machine is not traveling. Only what goes inside its energy vortex, as opposed to a starship that is also traveling inside the energy vortex it is creating. Other than that, The only applications are philosophical. And those are very important and transcendental, as they empower people, beings, into knowing that they are source and consciousness, into knowing that they are the creators of everything in their perceived reality, freeing their minds from lessening ideas of helplessness and victimhood. And that is simply invaluable. You can see here that the concept of non-locality is very important. Which one would you deem more important? Non-locality or no time? I think it can't be chosen. Cannot be. They are the same ones. For example, you cannot judge distance without a measuring media. And then to measure, you need speed relative to something else. In the case of interstellar traveling, it's light years as seen on Earth. But speed of light is not a constant. So there is no way to measure distance. It becomes relative to an idea. Speed of light is not a constant because time is not a constant. Speed of light is not a constant because light bends and gets tired as it travels along long distances, because space is not a vacuum. It's ether, a fluid. So over long distances, it does create resistance to movement of the photon wave that make up light, being that light is both a particle and a wave of energy. So measuring distances using light is inaccurate. But then we are left with nothing to measure long distances with. Radio, for example, is also distorted, and energetically speaking, it's also light, just in another wavelength. So you have nothing to measure a distance with. It becomes an idea held in a concept, held in an attachment in a mind. There is no distance. There is no time. There is no matter. There is no energy. It's all mind. Very cool. But so what's that about 440 light years? Why 440? Pleiades being 440 light years away. A human-based reference for distance. For you guys and the audience to understand where we are coming from. Those are human measuring methods. Interstellar species and cultures use frequency maps, not distance maps, or only use those for short locations, like a solar system or a star cluster at the most. But then, as for those heavy and transcendental philosophical concepts, we arrive at observing the principle of non-locality. And as there is no distance, there is no time, there is no matter, there is no energy. It means that every location in the galaxy is contained where you are, where your consciousness mind resides. All planets and all places in them are contained in the very precise and ultimate meaning of the word here. And what separates one place from another, whatever place that may be, however far you want to think it is only contained in an idea in your mind. Your thoughts make up your reality, exterior and interior reality, in a very literal way. And this also translates into the concept that states that each soul or person, ego, self, will always be in an exact and precise realm of existence, as perceived by it, in perfect accordance with its ideas and thoughts, because ideas and thoughts are frequency and make up its frequency of existence. So, spiritually speaking, when a soul or person ego selves evolves past its environment as perceived as material world for it, its container or body that is designed to hold its consciousness in one realm, say Earth's social matrix, will begin to become frequency incompatible with the mind, soul, or person ego self that inhabits it, creating a frequency mismatch or disharmony, also known as frequency dissonance syndrome, explaining much of the problems starseeds face on Earth. Is that what the remote viewing is based on? On the concept that everything is here and that everything can be accessed equally from anywhere? Yes, that as well. All based on moving your frequency of mind, not accepting the idea of distance and of barriers as real.